Okay, I am about to tell you about something that people have hidden from the general public for over 100 years. And it makes sense why they've hidden this, because it is a force that you can use for good, but yes, you can also use for bad. So what I'm talking about right now is plasma, and you might be like, what are you talking about? So plasma was called luminiferous ether back in the late 1800s. They discovered this luminiferous ether. In 1879, Sir William Crookes actually addressed and presented a lecture on ether, or what he called radiant matter, but it was the same thing. And he spoke of it having paranormal properties. There were many occultists at the time and theosophists that thought that luminiferous ether was connected with mind reading, and it could make many new technologies. And it is, which I'll get to. Sir William Crookes also mentioned how this finding triggered logical scientists. He said that they were fearful of this because it was a hard substance to understand. I can go on and on about him, but I have to bring it back. So all you need to know is there was this ether, and all of a sudden they did this experiment called the Michelson-Morley experiment, where it was a very faulty experiment in my opinion, and they disproved ether. But then 20 years later, Einstein said that there is an ether still. And then no one really gave any press to any of these things. And then all of a sudden plasma popped up. And then they started studying quantum physics and buried the mentions of ether and quintessence. And all of a sudden there was this plasma physics, but no one really knew what it was. It's still a field that I find not a lot of scientists know about. And here is the crazy part. Plasma has metaphysical and mystical properties that are basically like magic and are going to lead to revolutionary changes in our world and in our psyches. I'm writing an entire book about this. You can sign up in the link in my bio, my Stan store, to find out when this book is available. It's going to be all about what I'm talking about. So I don't know if you remember Prometheus, the legend, where he basically steals a lightning bolt from Zeus and he gives it to the general public. That is what I'm doing. Here's the thing. I'm not necessarily saying the government was evil or people were evil in power that hid this. I think there were a lot of people that wanted to capitalize on this. I think it confused and scared a lot of people because plasma is unpredictable. And I think the government wanted to study it on their own. And rightfully so, they were scared. If this knowledge about this ether got into the wrong hands, people can make horrible things and end the world. That's still a possibility. You know how they're working with fusion now and stuff. Anyway, I get it. But in my opinion, I think this plasma knowledge can be used for such good. And yes, it can be used for bad, but we need to trust the general public. And I think opening more of this knowledge, which I seem to know out of thin air, which I know sounds weird, but if it resonates, you'll know in your heart if it's true. And if it's not, then don't listen to me. With everyone knowing this knowledge, not only will they have a deeper connection with their soul and remember who they are in their heart, they will have so much more power than they realize. And yes, that could be a threat, but it doesn't have to be. We can also evolve beautifully and have a beautiful mixture of technology and organic, not in the scary ways we think. And we also, what's most all important, can have a better body intelligence and sentience and become more psychic and telepathic and literally create things with our minds out of thin air. I know that sounds crazy, but it is true in the future, all by having this knowledge. Okay, so basically what they did, this is all just my opinion, by the way, but I'm in deep research in this, is they took quintessence or ether or plasma, but back then it was ether, buried it, and then split it between relativity first, and then people were catching on, not everything can be explained by relativity, because our universe is definitely holographic, and because plasma is holographic. And then they came up with quantum mechanics, and they're like, oh, this will definitely explain some stuff. But the thing is, they kind of bump up against each other sometimes. Plasma or quintessence is actually the unified field theory. It is the answer to everything. But to admit this, scientists would have to rework the theory of gravity, which I think is just an effect of plasma. And the way light works and the way everything works would have to be totally reworked, which I think is going to happen. Hate on me all you want, scientists. I think it's going to happen. and I don't care who I prove it to because this video is not just about that. Okay. Another thing in science, though, is that a lot of things are coming out about quark, gluon, and plasma, and how this basically is like at the base of everything and was here since the beginning of time, and I believe comes out of black holes or is emitted from black holes, some of them, which I think is what creates some of the universe. And then I think as above, so below, on a smaller scale, our atoms are like mini black holes, and inside of that is quark, gluon, plasma. So it's like these mini vortexes, almost like we're projections, and it's constantly creating matter or our images. I actually think they're like clear bubbles, and like the plasma fills it, and then consciousness mixes with it, and then humans are kind of created, if that makes sense. Just picture like thousands of these clear bubbles and these vortexes kind of spinning and filling them with what our image is. That's why I literally think people can like think themselves to have better hair or better skin. And I've seen it happen. Okay. So yeah, anyway, I think that once we know more and more about the truth, science has to catch up because we're all catching on, folks. This plasma not only can heal bladder cancer, look it up. They're doing tests on it. People get plasma facials. It has to do with fusion and fission. But what no one is focused on is plasma can change your life and your psyche. So plasma, you can think of chaos magic, if you know what that is. I think they're working with plasma. I just don't think they call it that. They treat belief as a tool. Basically, to use plasma or this invisible substance, your beliefs create reality. But also this substance, plasma, has an intelligent field. And it's almost like you can be told no by this plasma if something's not for your highest good, if that makes sense. If you like really will something into existence and it's not for your highest good, like you will feel empty inside. It's very complicated. But anyway, to prove this has been a hidden secret in plain sight for a cajillions of years, animists thought that all things were alive, that the same spirit animated everything. They called it the breath of life or soul. Plasma is soul. Plasma is what animates everything. Well, it's the clay that makes everything. And then we get into animal magnetism in the 18th century, which is definitely plasma, where existence of an invisible natural force possessed by all living things, humans, animals, vegetables. It could have physical effects, including healing. Plasma, please. Nikola Tesla, radiant energy. Definitely, that was plasma. And now we're at quark, gluon, plasma. Oh my gosh, I almost skipped orgone energy by Wilhelm Reich. They compared it to animal magnetism, odic force. Basically, it was a creative substratum in all of nature. Plasma. Okay, so why has this been hidden from us? Because it is an issue of national security, they think. But here's the thing. If we fully accept these powers of plasma and kind of learn how to train ourselves with them, we will also be able to read everyone's minds or kind of plug into this like Akashic field or plasma field where we know what everyone's thinking and feeling. We will evolve to that. With that said, crime and violence is not really a capability without getting caught. And when you're really connected to your heart and soul, I promise you won't be violent. And this is what will get us there. But because of fear of change, we shouldn't know about this plasma stuff. But people are figuring it out all over the world. People like you are resonating with this for a reason. There's no reason. I just like randomly came up with this out of nowhere. Like I'm clearly getting this message to spread to people. And a lot of other people are too. Like it's not just me. This is just like my perspective, one of many. And you also don't have to call it plasma. You can call it energy, prana, chi, like whatever you want. It's very important to know you have your own relationship with plasma. All the answers are inside yourself, not me or anyone else. People can instill curiosity and inspire you, and you can co-create with them. But always check in with your inner compass, your inner plasma. In my book, yes, I'm hooking you, I will talk more about these like plasma powers, which are basically just like natural human powers that we have forgotten about. I'm still working through these things as well and learning as also. But all of this just seems so obvious to me. Does it seem obvious to you that like all this stuff is the same thing? And for the first time in science, they've harnessed it, and you can call it plasma, and that's how you can look at it a certain way, which you've never been able to look at it before. And you're like, aha, I ran out of time again. It's all love.